good, yeah.
Let's pause there.
You're wired.
I'm wired and my paper's over there.
Papers over there. And I'm going to just take the microphone. Perfect. It's on too. Mobile introduction. Good afternoon. Welcome. We're not going to do the ad-lib piece. Sorry. But think about self-promotion and whether it's a four-letter word. Let me know what you think. Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm Robert Klein. I'm Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs. And this Campus-Wide Leadership Series is funded by our office and by the KU Health System. So thanks to me and thanks to the health system. Self-promotion, working on it. Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Darryl Chamberlain, and absolutely astounding. How do you do all these things?
That's not all of it.
He's worked for 35 years in the semiconductor, railway, and aerospace industries. His expertise encompasses robotics, automation, ion implantation, epitaxial reactors, lasers, microlithography, test tool design and programming, technical writing, and a host of other industrial disciplines. He currently is working at Harcross Chemicals as a technical writer and document control coordinator for the organics division at Harcross. In addition to his industrial work, Darryl Chamberlain is an artist, a sculptor, educator, musician, composer, singer, historian, lecturer, and community activist. Incredibly impressive. He's certified to teach secondary social sciences in Missouri public schools by the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. In February 2016, he formed a collaboration between his A-flat music studio and St. James United Methodist Church to offer instrumental music lessons to students who reside in the urban core of Kansas City, Missouri. The result of that collaboration was the formation of the St. James UMC A-flat Youth Orchestra. In a little over a year, the fledgling group would find themselves on the front page of the Kansas City Star, and about a month later on the NBC Today Show, Feel Good Friday series. The orchestra has been featured on local radio, television stations, along with other local publications. He was honored by the mayor of Kansas City in a special resolution for his community work with young adults. And best of all, the orchestra has recently received an invitation to appear in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. The title of Darryl's presentation is Making Dreams Come True, the Idea to Reality Model. Please welcome Darryl Chamberlain. Thank you.
Good morning. Is it morning? Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here, and I'm very grateful that you invited me. Before I get started, I want to run the video that the Today Show did for us so you can kind of see. It kind of sums up our program a little bit.
Another one on a Friday morning. Get your weekend started.
You're going to like it. This one is about a self-made maestro conducting a symphony of selflessness, you might say, in Kansas City.
Yes, and this is a good one. Not many people have heard of the A-flat orchestra play, but the fact that this orchestra, made up of children aged 10 to 17, exists at all is pretty miraculous. It's all the work of one man determined to change lives through music. Moments after Darryl Chamberlain enters this shop in Pawn.
What's up, Darryl?
He and the owner fall into a familiar rhythm.
You said 65?
75. I'll do 70 plus tags.
Haggling back and forth, the shop in
said
Pawn is a regular
65
stop
because he
for
said
Darryl
75
as he hunts
first.
for instruments. He's got quite a growing collection. Some he refurbishes himself in his brother's auto body shop. This kettle drum is commonly known as a timpani. They can cost more than $1,500. Darryl found this one on eBay for about $150, then drove to Oklahoma to pick it up.
Took a power sander and sanded this all the way down to the fiberglass.
They put 4 coats of primer on it, then gold paint normally used for a Porsche sports car.
Of all the timpanis in the United States, ours will be the prettiest.
Darryl and his brother put a new head on it, then it's off to the orchestra. Yes, Darryl has his own orchestra that he started in the basement of St. James United Methodist Church.
If you love music, you love Kansas City.
For Darryl, the two are inseparable. He grew up here, taking pictures of all of the great high school bands during the parades. He moved to Texas for 2 decades and returned to find many of the bands were gone, the victims of budget cuts.
I wasn't thinking that I wanted to go to the school board and petition them to make a more robust music program. I just thought I'd just roll up my sleeves and do something about it myself. Some of you may have powerful minds where you can memorize music.
Darryl has a full-time job as a technical writer. In his spare time, he plays piano in churches to make money to buy instruments for his orchestra.
Over the years, I wound up with enough brass and woodwind instruments for a full brass woodwind band.
He has a growing stockpile, including that shiny, good-as-new timpani.
This is just me buying instruments on my own. So anybody that wants to give me excuse that they can't do it, I don't want to hear it.
Darryl charges a nominal fee for the lessons and instrument rentals. He says it teaches the students about commitment and how to care for their chosen instrument.
So come in the room like you want to greet folks.
And his students say they learn a lot more than just music.
He teaches a lot of things, history, math, science, all that stuff, and he's such a smart guy.
Everything should stop together.
It's all part of the masterpiece Darryl is composing for his community.
Whatever your talent is, it might not be music, but maybe you're the best carpenter that you know. Whatever it is your skill, your trade, gather somebody up and teach them what you know. Then you become a builder.
There are about 14 kids in the A-flat orchestra, but here's the deal. He's hoping to have as many as 50 eventually play with them.
That's all I need there. This should be a book. It should be a fairy tale. It kind of started like a fairy tale, and I would be amiss if I didn't really tell you where it all begins. And that begins with my mother and my father. And it was my mother that taught me to love music, art. I had something else I was going to do. What I'm going to do, I'm going to run a PowerPoint, and it's just going to go continuously. So if you miss a picture, don't worry about it. It'll keep going around. That's so if I get boring, you can just look at the PowerPoint, okay? Or if I get boring, raise your hand like this, and I'll sing a song. Really. I sure will. Somebody raise their hand. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell of Pharaoh to let my people go. I offer songs on demand, so if you raise your hand, you'll get one. You should catch me at Christmas time when I go shopping in the mall. I just sing as I go. And if I can stop somebody, I say, sing with me. And sometimes I get somebody goofy that will sing with me. But that's the way you want to be as you go through life. Just grab somebody and say, sing with me. Or if what you do is dance, grab them and say, dance with me. Make life fun as you go forward. Because, hey, when we come to work, man, it can get real tense and all uptight because we have all these problems to solve and so forth. And then when you leave work, make sure you have fun. But while at work and it gets tense, make a little fun with that too, because sometimes I do that. But anyway, my mother and father are the core of where I get all of my energy, my imagination, my efficacy. That comes from my mother. She loved music. She loved art. She encouraged us to draw. She encouraged us to read. And for those of you who are parents and all of this negative stuff you hear out there, throw that out the window. because I want you to tell you that as long as you put good stuff in your kids, you're going to win this thing. Okay? There was a place in the Bible where it says, a fountain cannot spew forth sweet and bitter water at the same time. And we know that it just makes sense. And so if you keep putting good water into your children, I promise you, good stuff is going to come out of them. And that's just the way it works. And my mother proved it first. She had 10 kids. Have 5 brothers and 5 sisters. And my story, I have my story, but they have their stories too. Because for those of you who are going down to the World of Wheels car show this weekend, you'll see the 2 cars that my brother, I forgot to start that, didn't I? Yeah. But you'll see the 2 cars that my brother had restored. He is probably Kansas City's finest body man. But I got 2 brothers that are the finest body men, and both of them are tough to beat. If you don't believe it, go back and get the old Kansas City Star where they put him on the front page because of the car that he restored. Of all those cars, his was on the Star. And so this is our family. We are engineers, we are musicians, we are accountants, we are teachers, we are some of everything. And I have to credit my mother, who first taught us to love to read. If you teach your children to love to read, bam, you got it. And that goes for all kids. And this is why I do this, because I think I found a secret on how to get them going. And I was 2 years ago Rocket Grant recipient for a project that I did called the Artists for Life Project, which had to focus on handgun violence in Kansas City. So if you want to know about murder rates in Kansas City, I know murder rates, okay? Kansas City is 1.5 times worse than Chicago. The only reason their numbers are higher because they have more people. But when we calculate the murder rate, we are worse than they. In fact, if we just focus on only the zip codes where this is happening, we get up there around Venezuela and Mexico. And this is a serious thing, and this is part of why I do what I do, because there is hope on the other side. My mama taught me there was hope. Now, my father taught me to work with my hands. And so when you see this old beat-up drum where we refinish that thing, that's my father coming out of me, because he taught me how to take my hands and take a product and turn it into something good. He was the one that taught my brothers body work and taught me mechanic work. And so between us, we were body and fender and automobile mechanics. But it was him who come out of Mississippi with just a 7th grade education, decided he was going to go to school to study auto body and fender and auto mechanics. And when there was a place called a National Trade School here in Kansas City, he graduated at the top of his class and then formed his own business. Of course, he had to, because as he went out to look for work, everywhere he went, they give him a broom and say, "Here, go sweep the floor." And he said, "I didn't study to sweep the floor. I studied to be a mechanic." And so instead of taking janitorial jobs, he went on to open his own shop. And that's where he taught me, my brothers, all 5 of us, his trade. And so fathers connecting with kids make a difference. And this is part of what this program is about. It's about connecting with kids and making a difference. And so that's where my foundation comes from my mother and my father, who believed in something good, believed in something right. Now, my father, as a businessman, was a community man. And that's where my community effort comes from. People would come to his shop, and it was on the west side of Kansas City, which is more of then it was mostly Latino. It was a mix. You had a mix of African Americans, whites, all conglomerated there together. And it was a unique community because they all had things in common. And so a lot of the things that went on in the heart of the city didn't happen there. People kind of got along together better there. And so people would come to the garage and say, they called him Mo, "I need my car Friday. Could you fix it? I don't get paid. Well, I need my car today. I don't get paid till Friday. And maybe could you hold this camera for me and I'll pick it up on Friday. And he would do that. And that was his sense of community. He understood that some of the people did not have a lot of money and they needed a little help, a little boost. They were willing to pay for the work, they just didn't have it right then. And so he interacted with the community on that level. It was a simpler time back then where sometimes the courts would contact him and he would serve as parole officers for a wayward youth in the area. There were some kids that would come up and say, Mo, why don't you teach me how to do that? And he would actually teach them how to do body and fender work. And James Hicks is one, and he passed away this year. James Hicks came to his funeral. James Hicks was about 15 when he said, Mo, teach me how to do that. He taught James how to do body and fender, and I grew up watching this young man learn the trade, master it, and boom, there he is. He went on to work for Ford Motor Corporation, and he retired there. And anytime we had a birthday party for my father, he was there. But this is community. This is connecting with people. And you saw on the video, I say, whatever your talent is, whether it's medicine or whatever, connect with the kid and teach him what you know. Let me move on, because I can talk a long time about my father, because this thing that became the St. James UMC A-flat Youth Orchestra really has been a wonderful journey for me, in that I want to start where, for me, it's my idea to reality model. Everything for me starts with an idea. And everything for you started with an idea, believe it or not. Whether it's what started you on your journey to study medicine, your career, everything we do starts with an idea. But if you take an idea and add to an idea imagination, an idea will become a dream. And you take a dream and add to a dream focus, good focus. Not just focus, but good focus. A dream will become a vision. You take a vision and add to a vision hard work. A vision will become a reality. Now, not just hard work. Not all hard work is good work. Some hard work is just hard work, okay? There's nothing good to be gained from. You could be down in a coal mine somewhere shoveling coal until you get black lung and just die from that. That's not good work. It's hard work. But what I want to say, hard work we need to define, so we make sure when we put that with the vision, something good will come out of it. So I say we want to define hard work with words like integrity, diligence, tenacity, fortitude, ethics, and above all, excellence. And we put all these together and let that define our hard work. If you put that with a vision, I promise you, whatever it is that your vision is, it will become a reality. I promise you that. And this orchestra, this youth orchestra, is not the beginning of it. That's not where it started for me. If we go back in time, I've always been doing something in the community for this, and that's some of the stuff is on this PowerPoint that I've done. In that, let's go back to 1992, and I got an idea, and it was kind of from living in Allen, Texas. I left Kansas City in 1982 and moved to Allen, Texas. Texas taught me some things that some folks in Texas have yet to grow up. And we had all myriad of experiences that were less than pleasant. And one was when we went to a local church, First Baptist Church of Allen. It was close to our home, and I thought it was nice that the kids would be able to walk there on a weekday if they were having something special for kids. And so I liked that idea, because that's the way it was when we were kids. That's the way we did it. And we went to church, filled out the visitor's card, and when we got home, and I hadn't quite got my arm out of my coat and there was a knock on the door. And the gentleman there said, well, I'd like to introduce myself as a couple, and maybe we come in and visit with you. And sure, if you come and knock on my door and want to come in and sit down and visit, you're welcome to sit down and visit. And if I got something in the refrigerator, I'll fix it up for you too. So you can come by tonight if you want. I'll be there. But anyway, he began his visit, and in the midst of it, he said, well, did you know that the Black People's Church is around the corner? And I was... But some people in Texas are like that. I hate to say that, but there are some great people, because I have some great friends in Texas. So don't let me color Texas. But if you allow some things to fester in the back room, they'll get pretty bad. And we had those experiences, which I won't go into, but there were many. And in thinking, I was thinking that maybe I could use my talents to address that. And so I created a program that was called Let Thine Eyes See the Glory. And this was a program we were doing for Black History Month. I had an idea. And I assembled a team, and we put some imagination to it, okay? This is my idea to reality model. We put some focus on it, and that idea became a dream. It wasn't good focus. Remember I said first, make it good focus. It wasn't good but it was focus. Then we put some hard work to it, and the dream became a vision. Well, the focus made it a vision, and then the hard work made the vision a reality. But it wasn't good hard work. And that's why I say, if you're going to put hard work to your vision, make it good hard work. That's identified by integrity and virtue and fortitude and diligence and tenacity. Then that's what makes the visions bubble up and become something really good. On program night, I think we had 50 people show up. And half of those were the people who were performing on the stage. So you can imagine it wasn't a good affair for us. And I was kind of disappointed. And my crew was disappointed. And I said, we're going to do this again next year. And they were, this wasn't even successful. I said, but I kind of know why. I kind of could feel it. We didn't have enough good hard work added to it, and our focus wasn't good like it should have been. We should have brainstormed a little deeper and looked for other challenges, because a lot of things were working against us that night. One was there was a big award ceremony that night, and everybody was at the award ceremony, and we were doing this at a public school in the auditorium, and there was a big basketball game then, and everybody else was at the basketball game. And so we had things working against it we could have thought through. So the next year, I said, we're going to come back next year, we're going to do it bigger, better, we're going to work harder, and that's what we did the next year. And guess what? We packed that auditorium, 600 seats full, the next year. But we had to make collaborations. We had to connect with people and make new friends and establish old friends over again. All of that to make sure that this program was a success. And so you make your hard work that you put to the vision good hard work. And I promise you a vision will be a reality. I went on from there, and my boss this started from an idea where I went to my boss. I was working for Texas Instruments, and I said, why don't we bring high school students in here to let them meet the engineers and see how what we're doing here correlates to what they're learning in school. Because when we talk about ion implanters, and this, it is what it sounds like. We are taking atoms and turning them into ions. And we have some math we do to do that, to calculate. And there's an upper and control limit that we use as we monitor the ion source to make sure it's doing what it should do. And the equation that we use is just a simple equation we learned back in high school. Y is equal to mx plus b. And that's how we tune the ion implanter. And I thought it would be neat for them to see that kind of thing, that this is what you're learning now. Because you say, what is why? Why do I need to know what is why? Well, okay, we're going to show you why you need to know what is why and how you can make a whole bunch of money just because you know what y is equal to mx plus b. And while you're at it, make sure you know a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. And we'll tell you how the light company will calculate your light bill with that. Okay? Because there's a certain part of your light bill that's assumed by the light company. They don't know that there's a reactive element. They know it's there. They don't know how much, but they calculate it with that y is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So when they run that over you when you call, how did you do my bill? You'll know what they're doing. But anyway, that became what was called Engineering Day. And Engineering Day grew up and turned into a robotics competition. It was just an idea that grew up. And then one thing led to another, and the robotics competition turned into an intercity competition because San Antonio, Texas, this started in Sherman, Texas. San Antonio got wind and said, can we be a part of that? And we had an intercity competition between two cities. And then the next year, my boss said, there's some guys in the Allen area that are trying to form a hub down there. And since you know this thing so well, can you work with them and get them started? And I became the chairman of what was called Coco Best Robotics, which was formed in 1994 and is still going on today. One thing led to another, and that simple idea bloomed, and I looked up, and it is spread across 13 states. And today, I think it's around 20 states and is being managed by Auburn University. And this is just a simple idea where all I was wanting to do was bring some high school students into the plant to meet the engineers and get a little bit of enlightenment. And the engineers saw how excited they got about it. And it was they who said, once they saw the U.S. first competition, then they mocked it and recreated it called it Sherman Best. And now today it's the Best Robotics competition. And it's one of the little secrets that few people know, because I've gone on and left Texas and all of that, and the only people that know that I was the one that lit the match that started it is my boss, who I went to it and said, can we do this? And he, being a man of vision, said, yeah, we can do that. I like that. And we did it. That was one project, and then there's others. We had a Friday night live youth jam that I did. You give me an idea and I know how to make it happen, okay? Because after you get into the swing of it, you know, and I use my idea to reality model as I go forward, to where I say we take an idea, add imagination. At your imagination stage, when you get your group together, make sure you let the imagination flow. So as people throw ideas out there and they're corny ideas, let them be corny. Because that's the flowing, it's the stewing stage. And some of them are even stupid. Let them be stupid. Never say in this stage of things, oh, that's a stupid idea. No. Let those come forward. Because sometimes you can take a stupid idea and slap that thing upside the head and it'll straighten up. And become something good. And so in the idea imagination, you want to let just ideas flow as you brainstorm things. And this applies to your disciplines here in medicine, because some of you are going to innovate this field. Some of you already have some ideas and back of your head, something, what if we did this? And you haven't quite got it to the imagination stage, but you got that idea and you I think it might work. Now, if I was younger, I'd go back and study medicine because I've got some ideas, but I'm too old. But for what I know of computers, I've got some ideas, but I really just can't go back. But you do, and many of you are younger, and some of you have some ideas and you're older. And that's a good thing about it. You've done all the pre-work. And so those ideas you can throw out there and let them cook and put some imagination and let those grow up too. I am sure that before I leave this place, that some great ideas are going to come from people in this room, and you're going to grow those ideas up to where they become dreams. And then you're going to connect with somebody. Because along the way, as you start growing an idea, make sure you're collaborating with somebody. I can't speak enough for that. Collaboration that creates synergy turns ideas into something wonderful. And that's in doing my first program, it was about collaboration. When we made it a success, it was about collaborating people. Because if you get in a fight and all you have is one finger, the best you can do is poke somebody in the eye. But if you got 5 of these, you can ball them up, knock that problem out. Okay, so make sure you're collaborating with people as your ideas are turning into dreams and growing, because it's collaboration that creates synergy that really makes things great. And then you want to delegate. One, to remove the stress from you. And we all know what stress will do to us, right? And this is a profession that can teach me about stress. Okay, but you delegate. One, it removes stress. And 2, by delegating, it allows you to move into places where you haven't been or couldn't go. Because that person delegated is going to take his ideas and make that, whatever it is you're building, so much greater. But let me move on. The St. James UMC A-flat Orchestra came about where I returned to Kansas City in 2004. And like I did when I left in 1982, I went to the parade. Now, the pictures you see on this PowerPoint of the parade are from 1982. Those are Kansas City schools that were in the parade. I took pictures, blurry though they may be. I'm the worst camera person in the world. But I came back in 2004 and went to the parade, and there were no Kansas City schools in the parade. And I said, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then the story gets worse in that a friend of mine who was connected with the school district, they were trying to do a district-wide band with those students that were in music programs, and he recommended me to audition the brass musicians. I got to see what kind of shape they were in. All of them were in bad shape. Of all the students that I looked at, only one could actually play the instrument. And so people, when I talk about things, people think I'm just talking. I've been there. I went to my own high school, Central, talked with the band director there. And he didn't seem like he was going to start a band. He had students coming into the class, but they didn't have a band. And this was 2005. And went to the parade, took pictures, because folks were like, he's just talking. I got pictures of the parade. There weren't any Kansas City bands in the parade, except for Center High School, which is not part of the Kansas City School District. They had a band. I talked with him. I was trying to connect with him to see if I could help him in some way to get his band going, but it didn't seem like he wanted help. It didn't seem like he even wanted a band. And then the next year he was gone. There was a new teacher there, and I went and met him in 2006. And he wanted a band, wasn't sure how to get started. And when I came, there was an argument going on between him and the class. And that didn't work out. I looked at the school statistics. Central, now, Lincoln and Paseo are collegiate schools. And so their graduation rates around 95, 96, up in the high 90s. Central was 65. Southeast was 62, Northeast was 62. At 65, you know what that means. 35% of the students who walk in that door are going to fail. Van Horn was 42%, meaning that the majority of the students that were going to walk in their doors were going to fail. And we're wondering why the murder rate in Kansas City is the worst in the region. What we do know about music study is that music students have the lowest on record incidences of teenage violence, crime, pregnancy, drug abuse, and we have studies to prove that. And what else we know, and let me read this because I don't think I can say it off the top of my head. Ooh, where is it? It's, I got to find it first. It's somewhere in there. I got a bunch of stuff, but it was, I think it's a biologist and physician Lewis Thomas in Texas did a study, and he found that 66% of the students that were admitted into medical school had music study as a background study. And some of you know, because some of you are musicians, am I right? Some of you study music. And he also found that, and that was the highest of any group that he looked at, because he found that only 44% had chemistry as a background study. And these are things that we started looking at. We found that it improved spatial reasoning in younger kids. And I get to see some marvelous things happening in my classes because I can see the thought processes going on. And as we go through the technical side of the music, because we learn the music theory along with learning to play the instrument, one student just brightened, "Hey, that's kind of like math." And I said, "Yes, it is, and let me show you why." Because what we don't know, Pythagoras, one of the things that he was really trying to determine when he was doing his mathematical studies, he was studying music. Who knew that? He was studying music. Yeah, one person knew it. Yes, and he was trying to find the mathematical relationship between consonant and dissonant tones, and music was of particular interest to him. But what I began to realize, music is powerful. And all of these things that we're grappling with in the Kansas City School District would be diminished if we had powerful music programs. Now, Lincoln and Paseo do have powerful music programs, but they're collegiate schools. You need to apply to get in. You're going to have to write an essay to tell them why you want to be there. Your GPA needs to be to their liking, as well as your citizenship and all of these other components. And so you might get in, but most don't. Okay? And what they're really looking at, those that look like potential problems, let them go to Central. And that's why you see Central on the 6 o'clock news from time to time. But music, if we were to get music in a powerful way in the public school system, wow, what would it do? How would we change things? How would we affect kids? And I get to see it in working with these kids. My classes are such that I have one class of 6-year-olds through 8, and those kids, man, they're powerful. Their minds are quick. They grab things quick. And I just had to tell the parents, I was planning on doing this, but these kids are smarter than what I expected. And we're going to have to move into something a little bit wider so we can give them a good challenge because, man, 6, 7, and 8, their minds are just quick. And so when you go home and your child is doing something quick, it's because he is. My mama taught me that, though. I wish I could spend some time just talking about my mother and my brothers and sisters, but what she taught me that I pass on to you, if you put good things in your children, good things will come out of them. And one of the things that she did for us, she made sure our house was full of reading material. We had books all over the place, and she subscribed to every magazine she could see. We had the Jack and Jill, back in the 60s, there was a Jack and Jill, highlights. We had those come into the house. And then she had McCall's and Family Circle and Life and Look and Ebony and Jet, Kansas City Times, Kansas City Star. And so I'm yay big, and I start my day before going to school reading Bill Vaughn's quips in the Kansas City Times. And then I come home after school and I read My Answer by Billy Graham. She taught me to love reading, and man, It has changed my life. I wish I had some time to talk about that, because that's another story, how reading can change your life. Because you can get down the road and find, hey, I'm not real good in math, or I'm not real good in English, but if you can read, you can fix anything that's broken. And I say that to the kids all the time. Whatever's broken can be fixed. And I want them to know that, because as I come up through the school system, I had some things that were broken. But because my mother taught me how to read, I was able to fix them. Boom, and here I am. So the things that you're seeing on these video, like the Artists for Life project, which is, we used 17 artists across the Kansas City area to create artwork to address handgun violence. There was a Friday Night Life Youth Jam, of course, Coco Best, robotics. And this is some of my own artwork. I didn't go to a formal school to learn to draw and paint. You can read, you can learn anything, huh? I said that, now I'll prove it. See, folks will say, oh, he's just talking because it sounds good to say that. But I'm the proof of whatever it is I'm saying. So you're free to challenge me and say, where'd you get that from? Where'd you get that from? And I'll just show you, because this is only a part of what I do. That's only a part of it. The orchestra itself is amazing, though. Let me get back to that. But as I interact with the kids and I see how we're affecting their character, and people are telling me, wow, as they walk through the church, they're so much more confident now. We can see a change in their personalities. We get to talk about things. Because I'm a history major also, I'll talk about historical aspects and show them how that connects to what we're doing today and why it's important to know history and so forth. And so I'm one of those that really push history. Now, that's my phone. I set it so it'll tell me to shut up. So we're at 12:45. We'll keep going. But I did not want to waste your time, because I know it's valuable time. You're all professionals, and you're going to go back and do some wonderful things once you leave this room. And I'm hoping some might even say, that idea that's been stewing in my mind, maybe I can make that thing become a reality. Yes, you can. Trust me, you can. And if you're not sure, collaborate with somebody, because sometimes you have an idea and it just needs to connect up with somebody. And so when I'm talking and as I'm closing down, I want to leave you with some points. One, collaborate to create synergy. Because if you're collaborating, you will create synergy. That's a given. Delegate to lighten the load and remove stress. And you're going to find yourself, like me, in charge of a project of some sort. There are many in medicine, as you know. I want to remind you that your project will not fail if you delegate a task to somebody who is not as skilled as you. If you learn that piece of wisdom, you'll make things happen, because sometimes it's not about who's the best, but who has the most imagination, who's the most creative. His skills may not be where you are, but he may be more creative than you. As I do things and I start delegating, yes, from an artistic standpoint, if there's art needed in the project, I think I'm probably among the best to do that. But I let somebody else do it, and they may not be even close to what I am, but I let them do it anyway. It might be somebody needing to do something technical. And as far as technical things, industrial electronics, I kind of feel like I'm the big dog on the block. But I'll let somebody else do it and let them bring their skills to the table. And if they need a little guidance, me being the big dog, I can give them a little guidance, but I want to delegate and let them grow. I want to also say your project will not fail if you delegate your task to somebody who is less educated. Your project will not fail if you delegate a task to someone who is less experienced. Your project will not fail if you delegate a task to someone who is less talented. The project will not fail if you allow someone to change an idea that you feel strongly about. And that's part of project development too. Sometimes you might feel strongly about it, but you might be off track. Let some other input guide you in case you are. The project, now here's the big one. The project will not fail if the group chooses another direction. Sometimes you need to choose another direction, and I could probably give you a bunch of stories where folks would not choose another direction. We had one in Texas Instruments back in 1983. We created the first notebook computer in 83. This was before hard drives and all of that, and so this thing stored its programming on a tape drive. And our facility we built 1,000 units per shift. That's 3 shifts at 3,000 units per day. And we did that from January all the way up to July. They were supposed to go on market in September. And in July, they decided, now let's look at the tape drive. And they found out that the tape drive wouldn't talk to the computer. And I was a technician then, and they brought us a box of resistors and said, change them out until it starts working, and when it starts working, tell us which one fixed it. We changed resistors all night long and nothing fixed it. Somebody should have chosen another direction a long time ago. But they didn't. And so I want to say your project will not fail if your group chooses another direction. Now, if the project fails because of delegation of tasks, it may not have been a worthwhile project in the beginning. Because usually a project is stronger when you start collaborating and creating synergy. And that's what I've learned in developing this youth orchestra. I have created a lot of synergy by collaboration and delegation. And that's why it's called the St. James UMC A-flat Youth Orchestra. St. James gives us the space to have our lessons so we don't have to pay a rental fee. It allows me then to charge the cheapest price for music lessons in the city. Because for less than the cost of a McDonald's fish combo meal, you can get music lessons for your child. It's that cheap. But if St. James wasn't collaborating with us and I had to pay rent somewhere, I wouldn't have been able to offer that kind of price. And so that's what brings the music lessons to our students. And here's the thing. I feel so strongly about this that if someone were to, and I don't advertise this, you'll have to just know and come to talk to me. But if you come to me and say, I want my child to have music lessons, I've been laid off for 6 months and I have no money, I'll sign them up. Because I feel it all balances out. I have enough parents who are paying that it'll all balance. And every now and then someone says, I'd like to sponsor a child. Every now and then that happens. And if you do, go to my website and hit the donate button. I believe, and my motto is, there will not be a student in Kansas City that wants to study music and can't because their parents can't afford it. And so my tuition is affordable. And with our tuition, we're able to buy the equipment that we need. The timpani that you saw, I should have talked about that thing, because I bought it for $119 off of eBay. I went to Big Dude's Music and saw the same drum selling for $1,499. We took that drum and sanded the stew out of it down to the fiberglass and repainted it with the color from the 2008 Porsche color chart, which was called Flemish Gold. There's no other timpani like ours in the nation. And one of the students came out, and that's what you saw in the picture. He helped me sand. I taught him how to use a power sander, and we knocked it on down to the fiberglass. That was our first one. Today we have 3 timpanis. This is a fledgling orchestra selling lessons for $7 a class, and we have 3 timpanis. And somebody gave us that orchestra chime set, and I'm currently knocking the oxidation off the bells, that's a $5,000 piece of equipment. And if you're willing to roll up your sleeves and do something, like I say, the hard work has to be defined what? Integrity, ethics, fortitude, excellence. If you define that hard work, you'll see your vision become a reality, and that's what you're seeing in this orchestra. I hope if you come to the parade and see us play, I hope we do a good job for you and that you enjoy what we're doing, and I hope you'll say, yeah, all that hard work brought that to us. Oh, thank you for having me here. And
Could you pass along your website address, please?
it's aflatmusicstudio.com. Real simple, aflatmusicstudio.com. And you'll see, don't have a lot of pictures there, but I will be. Come back and visit it from time to time because I'll have a gallery put up and where I'll have the pictures from each of the venues that we've done, where there'll be all of the pictures from the Today Show, all of the pictures from Fox 4. And Channel 41 came out and taped us 2 weeks ago. And so in a couple of weeks or so, look for that on Channel 41. That one's coming up.
I was just curious, with the legacy that you left, what legacy did you leave with your children? What are they doing now?
That's a good one. I have 6 sons, and they played with me in Texas. We had an ensemble called the Chamberlain Ensemble. And that grew up into a small orchestra where we had, well, actually, our brass section was probably bigger than Duke Ellington's. But they grew up learning the disciplines of music, and those disciplines have affected them in so many different ways. One of the things we did was we played in nursing homes, the state school where the people who are housed that have are mentally challenged, they put them in a state school there where they live there. And we would go there every Christmas and play for them. And there was one that would come out, and he got some white gloves from somewhere, and he had a little stick, and when we come to play, he positioned himself in front and just direct, and that was just a thrill. And whenever we showed up, he was there with his white gloves. It taught them to care about people, to love people, to be concerned about people, and that's what you see them doing today. And so that one son, he works with youth. He's an engineer for Dr. Pepper, but like I do on the weekend, he works with youth, teaching them track to how to run. And some of his kids have placed very well in national competitions. Another son, whereas we would go out to homeless feedings, he wound up working with the homeless ministry in his church and so forth. But he's a software something other. Professionally, they have their professions, but what they do after we leave the job, after 5 o'clock, that's what I get real excited about when I see this one working with the homeless ministry and this one, the youth director at his church. One of the things that they did when we traveled around, we had a lot of electronics to set up. And so I taught them to set the equipment up. I'm a delegator. And so as we came in, they learned how to set up the mixing board. And so one of them is the sound master at his church. And other churches contact him when they have issues with their soundboard because that's what he knows really well. And so all of that, what we experience growing up, I see them spreading it out as adults. That's why I say, put good stuff in the kids, good stuff comes out. Thank you.